This is a tutorial on how to add a dynamic sky to the background, to the world background in Blender 2.8 and above. I'm going to do this in EEVEE, so you want to go to your rendering tab and check to see that you're in EEVEE. Also, this is going to be affecting our world settings, so you can go to your world tab and notice that it will be probably set for world, should be. And if you click down to see if you have any other settings, if you're using a new setting, you won't. But this is where our new setting will end up being placed. This background is enabled by the addition of an add-on. So we will need to enable that add-on. We'll go to Edit, Preferences. When the preferences come up, they come up on the interface. One of the great features of Blender is that you can change the scale of both this interface and of your actual Blender screen just by changing the drop down here. So in my case, because I have bad vision, I'm going to scale this up just a little bit, and then I'm going to go to the add-ons, and in the search I'm going to type DYN for dynamic. And nothing shows up because I've left the enabled add-ons only on. These are I can only see enabled add-ons. I want to see all add-ons, so I'll take this off. Now I can see the add-on that I want to add, which is the lighting dynamic sky. All I have to do is check it and come over and hit the refresh, and now it is installed, and I can go back to my main screen. When you return back to your main screen, you will probably see something very much like this. Probably your main icon bar will be gone. You can get it back by coming up to this point, holding down the mouse, moving it just slightly, and now we have our icon bars back. At this point, it's important to know a couple things for future reference. First of all, if we go back to the rendering screen, we're in EEVEE. At this point, it might say cycles. It depends a little bit on what you've done previously. If it does, you can change it back to EEVEE. It won't really matter. It's going to change again in a second. But at this point, I know I have mine in EEVEE. Now I want to look into my world. If you're in the new screen, then you should have no more dynamic names or anything else, or if you do have other names, it's not important, but you should probably make sure it is setting on world at this point. Now we can come back over into our viewpoint, hit the N key to bring up our control panel. Your control panel should come up with dynamic sky selected. If it doesn't, come down to the Create tab and press it. Now when yours come up, it will say Dynamic Sky and it will say Create Dynamic 1. Mine says 4 here because I've been messing around in the previously and created 4 and deleted them. The important thing to know here is that the only name you can use is dynamic underline whatever number it is. And like I said, yours should say Dynamic 1 now, and when you hit the Create button, you notice that now this changed. If we come over and look at World, we now have Dynamic 1. If we select it, we get a tab here. Now this is again important. For some reason, well, there are reasons I guess, but it may not appear. You may open it up like this. And probably anyone would have known. I spent several minutes figuring out what was wrong. Obviously this is a drop down and you just need to type it on and off. So that's a good thing to know. At this point, you're basically set up to go and start playing out around with your new sky function. We can now look at the various options and see what they do. This white anymore. I also turned off my light so it wouldn't interfere with what I'm doing. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to turn it over to the render colors so we can see our actual colors. And now we see what happens when we bring this sky panel in. If you're not sure, you can come over here, go back to World, and you'll see that you have your old settings. So but we want to use the dynamic 1 now, so we'll come up to dynamic 1. And we see now we have a drop down.